Hi, this is Linda Tilson, and I've got Irina Crigan with me today. And we want to jump into our favorite subject, which is leadership. And today, what we're going to talk about is what do we need from leadership to be successful, to be valued, to do all of these things. There are things that came to mind for us, and we want to share our experiences, our thoughts around this subject. And so, Irina, I would love for you to share that story that you and I were talking about the other day, because I think it would be most helpful for our audience today.
Sure, Linda. Well, thank you very much. Good evening and good morning or good afternoon to our audience from whatever you're listening. And I'm super excited because, Linda, we are talking about one of the most favorite, I guess, topics that you and I both enjoy. And yes, it's around what actually people need in order to be successful. I just love the way you put it, and what they need actually to be supported and to achieve their own goals and objectives. So yes, I was sharing a story earlier to Linda, and this is with regards to a real life situation, okay? And I never thought I could actually do it, but this is what happened. So there was a time in my career when I was promoted and I was getting into a new field, if you want, and the regulations I was covering, if I can say so, were very complex. So I needed a lot of support. At the time, I think I was bold enough to be able to ask for that help, for that support, and just be able to express my needs and desires. And I went up to a senior colleague and I said, hey, I really need you to hold my hand, okay? While I'm learning and while, I'm in my learning curve, let's say. So I really need you to hold my hand tight as if I were a toddler, and you speak to me as a 3-year-old in our mentoring sessions or our coaching sessions. Because let's say he was some sort of a colleague that was assigned to help me grow and assimilate those regulations. So I remember I was being met with a lot of resistance, and I was told I was not fast enough. So my learning curve was not fast. I was not smart enough. And towards the end, they told me I was maybe not seated in the proper chair. So I think that was quite disappointing for me to hear, when my expectations from those leaders were to hold the space for me while I was transforming into that expert. And I knew I needed a little bit more time, but the moment I was gonna take off, I knew I'd fly perfectly. So I think in today's world, and I think people that are listening today, tonight, could relate to that, people need a leader. And I think there's most of the let's say of the skills that a leader should have are underrated. It's like compassion, empathy, and I'm not afraid even of the word love in the workplace. You have to have that kind of, you have to wear that kind of a coach hat that gives people a lot of understanding, support, compassion, and empathy. And it's almost knowing when to hold their hand as a toddler and when to let them go, and even push them a little from behind and say, hey, here's this little nudge here. You're able to do it. Get outside of a comfort zone. Encourage them to go and do it. Like, you're able, you don't have to be in the stands anymore. Just go on the field and play. Okay. So, and vice versa, if they go and try things and they mess up, I think what people expect from leaders is being able to be received back still with love. We still love you. We acknowledge you've gotten outside of the comfort zone. You did this and that. You made a mistake. So I guess learning, like not learning, but like, I guess what you learned from doing this mistake, but knowing that you could get back in this space and still be loved and supported by a leader, regardless that you messed it up. I think that's what is needed out there in the world.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. And I like the way that you described that a person really needs from that leader, that person to be able to offer their knowledge about a certain subject area, but let the person fall into the practice area. And it needs to be in a way, like you said, they need to be able to practice a new skill. And if they make a mistake or they lose their footing and don't know which way to go, that they can come back to you, get reassurance that they are on the right path, but maybe they're not quite where they want to be, and how can they best get there. I have to say that I do this on a normal basis, and the way that you described it, you added another element, and that's this. You need to know as a leader when to nudge and when to hold back, because it's really easy when you're moving really fast. There's deadlines approaching. Sometimes they've passed and you've got to catch up. And sometimes that's when the best learning happens, when the things that don't go right, getting back up again, and being able to allow that person to step into that space and give them that support. Let them know, I know that you can do this. I need you to pace yourself. And what do you think the next steps are in this process? Because if you can give them that encouragement, it calms their mind by so much, especially when there's a lot of stress and anxiety in learning something and not having it go the way they had planned. And then being able to ask for the next steps, because people don't like to admit that they don't know what to do or how to proceed next. But a leader will know, let them swim around a little bit, ask those questions about what could be next, or if there's an error, how might you go about looking for the error, and have them voice to you how they would do that. And then oftentimes the person surprises themselves because they realize what path or next step they can take. They go and do it, and then they have this newfound confidence that they can do this. And it's all in that leader believing that they could, allowing them to try on their own, but yet when they needed some support and help, they can come back. And, it's really easy for a leader to jump in, take the reins, get it all done, because leaders take positions in organizations because they have a competency or a skill set that they were hired to do, and they will know how to do it in and out. But I'm going to share this one thing. People forget that the leaders started from somewhere. And when we started from somewhere, we made bonehead mistakes. We didn't always know which way to go. And for a lot of us, we've had people that were good leaders for us allow that space to be able to test, to try, and to move forward in a way that feels good. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, what good leaders do is they don't pretend or put out in the world that they got to where they are because they just knew exactly what to do and how to do it. They started from somewhere as well. And a good leader will have that compassion and that challenging energy and know when to flex between the two, so that the person that is learning and growing can have the best experience. Because once you're in a space where you're having that difficulty or struggle to learn something, and you nail it and you figure it out on your own, but you have the support to do it, that's what you want to do as the person that's in that receiving space. But the person that's leading that's why they do that. A good leader will do these things because they know how important it is to grow, to be able to have that space. So I know we've talked a lot about this, both with your story and with the way, for me, how I approach and come to the table. And the one thing that I want to add that comes up every once in a while for people who are courageous enough to voice it, they want the leader to be human. They want the leader to be able to say they're having a bad day, or they don't know the answers, or maybe they missed the mark on something. They want the leader to be able to step up and admit to these different things that can happen. And because when they do that, then everyone's more on the same playing field. There isn't the leader that's above and looking down. It's more about moving alongside and with the person. And that's really what makes teamwork.
Yeah, oh, it's unbelievable. When the leader is authentic and they lead by example, that definitely allows people, it gives them permission to be human, right? It allows them to come into their best versions, and this is the best authentic selves. And I've experienced both dysfunctional and toxic workplaces as much as I found my place, and I'm in an amazing work culture today, and so proud and grateful for this. And truly, I can say, uh, that there is a lot of psychological safety where I can raise my hand when I need help. I can right away tell that I've made a mistake. There was a mismatch in numbers. I've inversed them. Something has happened, so I'm willing to do it before. I have no tendency of hiding it. And it's because people, it happens as well a lot. Linda, I'm just gonna maybe continue the thread, the conversational thread, allowing us to take us to the next step. And that is, people do best when they're cared for, when they really, really matter. And you've heard me speak about it a lot. I talk a lot about how passionate I am about the culture, the Bob Chapman build, right? And I believe a lot in them. And for such a long time, I thought it's utopia. It exists only in books, and it does exist. It's true that it's very rare nowadays, but these work cultures, they exist. People, they're part of the company's mission. And ideally, you want your people to identify as well with your values, your mission and vision. And I think this is when people truly care and they want to stay.
You're right. I mean, you look at how people are motivated in the workplace, and different things work for different people. But universally, if a person feels like they belong, that you care for them and you have their best interest at heart, it doesn't matter that maybe some people love to have that style under stress where they do it in that 24th hour, or you're that person that loves to plan, and so you do it a couple of days ahead. Both of those types of people, they're motivated slightly differently. But honestly, when you are going to be putting something out in the world, and you know best how you're contributing, but it feels even better yet when somebody acknowledges your contributions and that they can't do this work without you. And because we need you to do this work and we can't do it without you, we're willing to invest in your growth and development. We're willing to invest time into having that conversation so you know about what you're doing next. We have the conversations about what it is that you most value in your position, the things that you value in your career ladder, the things that you value as a person. And really, that you're right, that the whole part of being cared for, no matter how you're motivated or how much acknowledgement you need, you can't deny that people don't thrive in a loving, caring, nurturing environment. There's statistics that prove that to be true. And the converse, having an environment that's toxic, that where people don't feel cared for, you're right, they're not going to bring the problems to the surface before you do. There's no way they're going to do that, because they don't want to get beaten up for that. But if you have a culture that you care and that you can move through errors and mistakes and do it together, and that there isn't that going to be that punishment behind it, well, then people will definitely own up on when they make a mistake or an error. I had one happen the other day. I missed a detail on an update. It got sent, it got processed, and I had to come back and say, I put this thing forward, it had an error, I've corrected it, we need to send it back forward. I'm sorry that we have to have rework. I could have just tried to find some way to hide it. I could have made some excuse that I was just busy and missed it. No, I just said I missed the detail. I realize it now, and here it is with the fix. Let's move it through. And the thing just moved right through the chain. And, that's a much better way to move through, is to have that relationship with your leader, that you can have that conversation. Because the old environment that I was in, I would have felt like mortified and I would have hemmed and hawed, and I would have waited till like the end of the day, or I would have figured out some way that, okay, we'll just let the error go and we just won't worry about it until later. I mean, it'd be real easy to do that. And when you have that caring, nurturing culture, and you know that you can bring things forward, the teams thrive. they are more innovative, all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thought I wanted to share, Linda, and I'm having right there my brain freeze moment, and I just want to laugh at it, so it just goes away and gives me back my thought.
Of course.
Yeah, but it's people definitely want to be part of these cultures. Yes, it's very important. I do seem like a broken record. I know I've mentioned it before to those people that are watching our videos. We have a massive shift in the workforce. In probably now 4 years from now, we'll have 75% of the workforce being millennials, and this group of individuals respond to a totally different type of leadership. And this is an exact type of leadership where you and I are talking today, Linda. These are leaders, they care for their people, they're empathetic, compassionate. And yes, my idea just came back. I think it's important to take that extra time that we would invest today, so in the long term it's easier. It's one of our leaders that says this all the time. And I think most organizations, what they struggle with is not investing this time in their employees. They think they're actually wasting it, or they just think they don't have the time. So what it turns easily into is those dysfunctional structures that just have groups of people that are running around. I said, just as headless chicken, from one's on call to the other, it's back to back, and have the impression they're doing something just because they're busy. Well, busyness is not equal to productive, let's say, or productivity. So this is one, again, thing that is underrated in organizations, is investing time in your employees. And this is exactly what I needed when I was there in that moment in my career, in which I needed a lot of support and I needed a lot of time, or maybe a lot of time. I mean, I needed my amount of time. Who can say maybe your 3 months are equal to my 7 months, Linda? So so that's pretty much what I wanted to share.
I like that you shared that, because I agree with you. That is a conversation I have with other people, my colleagues. They will talk to, certain people on their staff needing more hand-holding or more time to do learning. And they will say, I don't really have the time to put into this. I need them to step up and figure it out and just go do. And I'm sitting here thinking, you know what, the time that you're taking to share that pet peeve with me, that could be with that person having that deeper conversation about seeing how they could support them and asking some questions about what it is they need. Some people just need to have a walkthrough of a process in real life, doing it to understand it, whereas other people might need to take a course or get some foundational knowledge. And really, the best learning that happens, I will swear, I think it's the absolute best. It beats education and classroom training, and it beats waiting till you have the right time to have the conversation. But it's when you got a problem. Houston, I have a problem. You get one of those. I get one of those things in my Teams chat, and I'm like, okay, I'm sitting here looking at what I have for the day. Okay, I know I need to do this, this, and this. And I'm thinking, you know what? If I don't stop and take that call right now and help that person that needs my support, then whatever I'm going to be doing down the line, yes, I might get my own thing done and meet a deliverable. But if I don't spend that maybe that 5-10 minutes, maybe it's an hour I spend with that individual, working through some problem solving skills and figuring out what they've done and asking them what needs to be next, the learning curve is reduced extensively. And so I am willing to give up that 10 minutes, that 1 hour, to take care of that in the moment thing that needs to happen. And, a lot of people in management or leaders, they have busy schedules and it's really hard to be on speed dial. However, there are times where you need to check in and find out, at least triage, find out from the person, does this need to be done now because they are severely behind, or can it be done later and we can schedule a time? And, sometimes there's going to be those conversations where we just need to coach the person on how to regulate their emotions so that they can come back down and think logically about where they're at, where they need to go. I mean, I do those conversations daily, but there's also those times of learning where when I sit down with a person and we go through a methodical process to get there, and I have them take the lead. I don't take the reins and lead them through. I will ask them questions so that they walk and lead me through. And when they can voice that out loud, it's just amazing how much they learn, and then they realize that they had the answer all along. They just needed to talk it through the phone a friend option, and then it works. And for people that don't stop to take that time, I'm going to tell you, you're going to spend more time when that person has to struggle for 2 days doing something that you might have been able to halt, triage, and help them figure out in a matter of like an hour. It's worth the time to do that, both in the short term and the long term. So I'm always giving that message. Talk to your people, be available and open. And if you really truly have something that's going on that you need to do yourself, ask the right question about whether it's urgent and important, and then go from there about whether or not you really truly need to have a scheduled formal meeting, or if you can do a one-off and get it done in that moment. And when the stakes are high, the emotions are running, it's so much better. And you know what happens at the end of the day, when you take that time and you do that, the people that have gone through that, they have that experience that gives them the confidence that when they're someday in that role or playing that part as either a leader or a leader themselves, they remember that day when that person actually took the time to listen to them and to acknowledge what was going on and to help them and not let them sink or swim. And so it really, the investment pays itself over several times. It is. And so I can't think of a time where I've ever spent that time and wished I had gotten it back, that I was a wasted time and effort. I can't ever think of a time. It's near, I can't think of one thing where I've invested it and it was a waste of time.
It what makes a great leader out of you, Linda, and I'm proud. I'm very proud of the work you're doing, and I'm proud that our paths have met like this. And I'm 100% agreeing with you. That's what I meant to say. And people like to help, you know, and when they're given, as you mentioned, this assistance and this help, they're more willing, I guess, to give more of that paid forward. And, you know, people serve at different ranks. That's what I always say. You don't have to be in a management position. You don't have to be in an executive committee or an executive member of the company to be a leader. You could be leading from, you know, your average rank as a regular employee, right?
True.
And
leaders at all levels.
Your colleague to the left, to the right, as I always say.
Yeah, leadership happens at all levels. Is all a leader is somebody that was willing to accept a role, step into responsibility, and see the thing from beginning to end. If I had to sum it up in 3 actions, those are it.
Amazing. And Linda, just before we close up on that, I was just really curious. You know, we say often, you know, and I totally agree with that. We say it takes willingness, capability, and capacity, right, to become a leader. What do you think is the main one out of the 3?
Oh, it's the willingness, because a capability can be learned.
I agree.
And the other, as far as the capacity, there's never enough hours in the day. So you have to figure out by triaging urgent versus important. But yes, if the willingness isn't there, the other 2 aren't going to be there.
Awesome.
Well, you've heard it from Irina and I today about the lessons in leadership that we have experienced in our real life scenarios that we lead in our workplaces. And what we would like to do is to invite you in our comments to share your lessons of leadership and the things that you value most from your leaders, because we know that we didn't cover them all. There's more. And we'd like to share with our community of listeners in leadership more ways that leaders could be aware of, where they could come in and make that difference.